All we are is memory, and our memory is our karma. The thing is that memory is just a phantom. It loses its life when the moment passes. Then it becomes your interpretation of reality, but not reality itself. Why am I telling you this? Because memory is the only thing that allows you to have a sense of self, identity, or individuality. And that sense of self and identity usually becomes your karma. Everything leaves an impression on something else in this world to survive. You see, without karma, without memory, there would be no life. So it's very necessary to some extent. You see, it becomes unnecessary when it drives you to act and attract people, places, and things that are not for your highest good. Hey guys, Mason back with another video, and today's going to be a good one, so I'll just get to it. All we are is memory, and our memory is our karma. So, that's a bold statement. What do I mean by that? Well, we have several different types of memory. We have our physical memory. We have, the memory that gets stored in the body, like trauma or physical sensations, or any of the five sense impressions that we have an experience. That's physical memory. And then we have mental memory, and that's usually what we would think memory is, but that's just one component. Then we have emotional memory from things we've experienced in our life, and then we have another memory that goes beyond the body and cloaks it. That's our auric memory. People call this the energy field that is around your body. That's your aura. But in your aura, memories get stored. The thing is that memory is just a phantom. It loses its life when the moment passes. Then it becomes your interpretation of reality, but not reality itself. Why am I telling you this? Because memory is the only thing that allows you to have a sense of self, identity, or individuality. And that sense of self and identity usually becomes your karma. See, memory is necessary for our survival. Think about it. The way you learn how to cook for yourself, the way you learn how to take care of yourself, hygiene, the way that you learn to take care of others. Memory is important for our survival. Everything leaves an impression on something else in this world to survive. You see, without karma, without memory, there would be no life. So it's very necessary to some extent. You see, it becomes unnecessary when it drives you to act and attract people, places, and things that are not for your highest good. And we will call this unconscious patterns. And so your unconscious is what makes up most of your memory, whether you know it or not. Your sense of identity is largely composed of this memory, the unconscious memory. And remember, we're not just talking about mental memory, we're talking about physical sensations stored in the body, emotions, emotional memories, and energetic auric memories. More metaphysical, but it's there, I promise. When we stop allowing the unconscious to rule our life, it poses a threat and danger to the life that we had or who we were. Bit of an extreme example, but people that reach enlightenment, people usually known as monks, right? These people are erasing most of their karmic memory, and as a result, their unconscious patterns. And so when you reach a level of enlightenment, oftentimes it's very hard to stay connected to the body. You start getting up there, and so these people, the danger it imposes, when you stop allowing the unconscious to rule you, is to that extreme extent your death. There's plenty of stories of yogis and monks in the past where they meditate so deeply, they get enlightened, and then they leave their body. They're still alive, but their spirit is transcended the cycles of rebirth and death, which we would call samsara. That's why it's so important to keep a certain amount of karmic memory for your own ability to survive on this planet. And usually we would call that our ego. So there's a purpose there. But an ego unchecked, an unconscious unchecked, leads to those patterns repeating in your life, and you act and attract people, places, and things that are not good for you. You see, impressions cause ripples and waves. What, did you think your consciousness was any different? And when I say impressions, think about how someone treats you, right? You walk into a store and somebody walks into you, right? And they saw you, but they walked into you anyways. And for the rest of your day, you're thinking about that person that just kind of left that karmic memory in you. Or if someone does really something good, it could be good or bad. If someone does something really good for you, you usually remember it, right? So these are impressions that people leave on us. So oftentimes that becomes memory. That becomes the unconscious. Let me break it down for you. So impressions create patterns, right? And patterns create stories, right? So we start telling ourselves things when we notice certain patterns within ourselves or in our reality. You know, we might walk outside and it starts raining on us, and then we start believing that there's this dark cloud following us everywhere in life, right? So that's a story we're telling ourselves. And those stories create those beliefs. And then those beliefs become your unconscious. And then that unconscious is your karma. It's pretty simple. There's a quote by Carl Jung I'd like to put on the screen real quick. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So you have to begin to ask yourself, what unconscious patterns rule you in your life? And then you'll find out what your karma is. You see, there's often this misconception about the word karma. People think of it as a cosmic punish and reward system. But karma is not this. Karma is just cause and effect. It's why good things happen to bad people and bad things happen to good people. You see, if karma was just a punishment and reward system by the universe or God, wouldn't you think that more good things would happen to good people and more bad things would happen to bad people? Karma is just, it's cause and effect. It's ripples, it's impressions, it's patterns, it's stories, it's beliefs, it's your unconscious, and that's your karma. If you want to know the Creator's plan or God's plan for you, then it starts with becoming conscious of your unconscious. That's what free will is about, becoming conscious. Otherwise, it'll feel like your life is predetermined. So you might not even believe in free will because you never took the time to sit still and to become conscious, free to know that you're free. And that's usually what I think about people that don't believe in free will. Moving on, when you first start becoming conscious, it will feel like your unconscious patterns that you're becoming aware of have a grip on you. Just know that this is temporary. You may experience feelings of losing control towards these unconscious patterns. But all that is, give me 1 second, I got all these here. All that is when you start feeling like you're losing control to these unconscious patterns that you're just becoming aware of, is it's just bubbling to the surface, right? Little messy drawings. These are my bubbles. Pop, pop, pop. That's a big bubble, right? This is water, obviously. So it's when you're experiencing that, that's all it is just coming to the surface of your conscious mind. And you have to let it. You have to let it, you have to see it, you have to observe it, you have to learn from it, and then you have to let it go. And that's the process of becoming conscious of your unconscious. And it's one of the first steps towards freedom. And when you do feel like you're losing control to these unconscious patterns, let's say, for example, that you are someone that has been an addict for a long time towards something. It could be anything. Lots of things you can be addicted to nowadays. And you're in the process of recovery and you're starting to become aware of these unconscious patterns within you, and you start relapsing, right? You start relapsing. What do they always tell you in recovery is because relapsing is part of the journey. These things are just bubbling to the surface. And you just have to see it, know it, learn from it, observe it, and let it go, right? But don't forget to breathe. Just breathe through it. Once you get farther down this path and journey, there comes a point in the process of you becoming conscious and realizing your karma that you reach a threshold, basically. You realize at that point in your journey, this is farther down the path, stay with me here. You've explored, at this point you've explored all the unconscious that you can imagine. You've sat a long time with yourself in stillness for a long time. It takes years sometimes. and you've surrendered to that process and you've explored it, there comes a point in that journey of realizing that karma that you begin to see that there's no bottom to the depths of your unconscious. And so this is the point in the journey where you start gaining that free will, that control. You start saying, okay, I am choosing consciously to learn to go in this direction in my life, right? I'm basically what you're doing is you're taking these unconscious forces and patterns within yourself and you're redirecting it and you're channeling it in other ways of your life. This is being conscious. Because you come to that point after a while, you realize, you keep trying to dig, or you're swimming to your depths, but there's no bottom. You're trying to reach the root of it, and sometimes you realize there is no root of it. For certain unconscious behaviors, there are no roots. It's just deep conditioning from society, your family, your community, your friend groups, and you can't really blame anybody. At that point, there's no bottom for you to pinpoint. You just have, because it doesn't matter the origin. You just have to see the pattern and understand what to do with it. It's like things start feeling less clear when you try to go deeper and deeper at that point. And at this point, this is when you can finally decide to shed your own karma. That's what being conscious essentially is. It has everything to do with your willpower to choose how to respond to the things within you. Because like I mentioned, a lot of things that you think are not even you. A lot of your thoughts, a lot of your emotions, a lot of this stored memory, it's not even you. At that point in the journey, you realize that these thoughts, these emotions, these beliefs that are buried under the surface, they're just impressions from the outside. And when you're unconscious, you start identifying with these memories, right? You start really developing a sense of self or your ego from these unconscious forces, and that pushes you to act and attract people, places, and things that are not in your highest good. You see, a part of liberation and the path towards liberation is in your solitude and stillness, you come to a point of, it's basically a process of elimination. You stop identifying with certain things. You stop identifying with those memories, those impressions, those thoughts and emotions from the outside. And you start choosing what you do identify with. Because like I explained earlier, you do need some sort of identity in order to survive in the physical plane. Because memory does serve us. It is necessary. It's just at a certain point, certain memories aren't necessary. Wouldn't you agree? So you have to learn, what do you identify with and what do you not identify with? And it's a process of elimination. And I promise you, in that process, and when you do change and transform, you're going to feel freer. And that's when you know you truly grew. It's about keeping what's necessary and cutting the rest. Think about it like climbing a mountain. When you climb a mountain, you have to make sure that you have a certain amount of weight that you're carrying. You can't carry all the weight in the world, right? Because you're going up, and it's a strenuous path. So you have to cut stuff out. It's a process of elimination. What can I put in my backpack? What can't I put in my backpack? And at the summit of the mountain is metaphorical for your awakening to your own karma and shedding it and becoming free. You see, it takes a lot of inner work to get to this point. And it's why asking yourself the question, what is my karma, is so important. Because what are the unconscious patterns within you? Do you even know what drives you to act a certain way? So remember, your karma is the outside impressions that create patterns in your psyche, in your body, in your auric field, in your emotions, in your thoughts. And those patterns create stories that you start believing, and then that is your unconscious. That is your karma. And a part of your free will is becoming conscious of that and deciding what you're going to do with it. A lot of these ideas come from a book that I recently read by Sadhguru. And so credit where credit is due. If you want to dive deeper, I highly recommend it. It explains a lot of good concepts that I'm talking about here. I just kind of synthesized a lot of my thoughts after reading it, and thoughts that I've had actually for a while before even reading it. So that's kind of what this video is about. But yeah, this is Karma, a yogi's guide to crafting your destiny. But if you're not a yogi, if you're not into yoga, it's still a very important read. And if you're someone that has heard about Sadhguru and maybe you've heard some things that are negative about him, you know, the controversies, try to separate the narratives you hear in the mainstream media and try to separate the message from the person, you know, the art from the artist. And there is wisdom here, I promise. I hope that this video found some use for you and that you learned something. Don't forget to subscribe and like to my channel. Help me out, you know, supports my channel, gets it on the algorithm. And I'll catch you guys next time. You fuck. You fucking whore. What the fuck? Why won't you do what you're supposed to do?